Hello, I'm Jack at GLHF Computers, and this is a video that's been put together to show you the sort of gaming performance you can get out of our ECO PC. Now it's priced at £300 and includes an AMD X2 250 processor. That's overclocked to 3.6 GHz at no extra cost. It's got 4 GB of DDR3 memory, which is plenty for gaming and general multitasking. The graphics card is a DX11 ready HD 5670 with 1 GB of memory, and as you're going to see, it's really surprising how much performance you can get out of a system like this. Now you may be thinking, £300, that sounds cheap. Other retailers might sell home and office systems for that sort of price, and you're thinking surely this system is going to be rubbish for PC gaming. But of course this isn't true. Hopefully this video will debunk the myth that you have to pay hundreds of pounds to buy a PC that's going to handle all the latest PC games that you want to play. It's a common misconception that's very untrue nowadays. Yeah, I think in the past perhaps it was the case. Components used to be a lot more expensive, and if you were going to decide what platform you wanted to do your gaming on, you would have probably just gone for an Xbox 360 or a PS3 simply because it was so much cheaper. Nowadays, however, the market's all changed, and you can buy a great PC at a relatively low cost. Then of course when you throw things like overclocking into the mix, you get more performance and you get a lot of bang for your buck. So yeah, this system I put together really to try and convince those guys on the fence about PC gaming to take a chance and see just how great it is. Even at a lower than expected price point. With PC gaming you can use high resolutions in your games. They will run at higher frames per second. For anyone that doesn't know, frames per second meaning the amount of times that your computer can render an image and display it on your monitor every second. And of course the higher the number, the smoother the gameplay experience is going to be for you. So I decided to actually film the monitor I've used here playing some games, so you can see there's no foul play at hand. The system in this video is exactly the same specification that you're going to see on the Eco Gamer page. The frames per second is displayed in the top left hand corner in pink, and I'm also going to give you a quick rundown of the settings that I use for each game. So before I start with the footage, just to let you know, the monitor that I'm using here is the Dell 2209WA. It has a native resolution of 1680 by 1050, so that's what I'll be running all the games at. It's going to give me the sharpest image, and basically you're going to be able to see that the Eco PC can handle that resolution. It's quite a high resolution. You might have a 19-inch widescreen monitor, for example, so you might have a lower resolution of 1440 by 900, something that's quite common for 19-inch widescreen monitors. So if you buy this system, games are going to be running even better for you, because in general the lower resolution that you use, the higher frames per second you're going to get. Okay, so we're going to bring up core temp here so you can see the specs. We've got the AMD Athlon 2X2 250 overclocked to 3.6 GHz. You can see the temperatures there, just using the stock cooler, they're nice and low, so the system is going to be nice and cool when you're gaming. The graphics card, as you can see here, as I mentioned earlier, the Radeon HD 5670. It's a great little card for the price. I'm going to start off with some Modern Warfare 2, give you a quick rundown of the settings. Again, this is a great first-person shooter on the PC system. With the mouse and keyboard controls you get a lot of accuracy. You can see here pretty much everything is set to high in the graphics, so you're going to get nice textures, nice resolution of the models that you're using. We're going to jump into a free-for-all deathmatch, I think it was. Again, I've skipped forward here just to not keep you waiting with the loading screen. We're in a free-for-all deathmatch. You can see the frames per second in the top left-hand corner. 60. It's averaging around 60 FPS. Sometimes it's even going higher into the 70s or the 80s. The game looks great. You've got great frames per second. So even when there's a lot of stuff going on, you get into a big firefight, you still got a nice frames per second. The game's smooth. You're going to be able to play the best you can. Your computer isn't going to be stopping you. Onto Counter-Strike Source again. You can see high settings. We've got 2 times anti-aliasing on there as well, so the edges are going to be nice and smooth. We're going to hop onto a deathmatch server. Now I picked a server here that had a lot of people in, just so you can see, even though there's a lot of players on this server, we've got high settings, big resolution. The frames per second you get is still pretty good. So you can see straight away here 70, 60 frames per second. Counter-Strike Source, when you have it on the highest sort of graphical settings like we have here, it's a nice looking game. And if you consider there's 24 players on this server, the system handles it really well. You're looking around 60, 70 frames per second average, which is, it's going to give you a very smooth gameplay experience. Now what we're doing here is I've dropped the resolution down to 800 by 600, put all the graphics on low settings. Now you might think, why would you do that? Well, a lot of Counter-Strike players who might play competitively, for example, they want the most out of their system that they can get, so they actually use a lower resolution and they use lower detail settings, so their frames per second is going to be very high. As you can see here, we're on the same deathmatch server that we were just on before, still 24 players on, and the frames per second is up to 250, 230. It's very high. You've got a really smooth gameplay experience. So, even if there's a load of stuff going on the screen, there's a lot of flashbangs going off, lots of grenades, a lot of people shooting, you're still getting a really smooth frames per second. So that's the sort of performance that you're going to see in Counter-Strike Source if you're using low detail. Again, super smooth. It's a £300 system. You're getting a lot of value for money. Something a little bit different here. This is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. It's a brand new racing game in 2011. You can see here we've got high resolution textures on, medium shadow level. The other settings are on high or turned on. We're going to jump into a race, and you can see here it's a relatively new game in 2011. It looks really nice, and if you take a look in the top left hand corner, we're getting 35 frames per second average, that sort of speed. So even though it looks really nice, you're still getting a pretty good frames per second, meaning that you've got a smooth gameplay experience. It's going to be fun. You're not going to get any lag. It's just going to be a really good experience if you're playing like even brand new racing games like this. So I'm just going to let this play out a little, and you can keep an eye on the frames per second and see the sort of performance you get. Now again, you can actually use Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 controllers on the PC. So if you didn't want to use the arrows on the keyboard for your racing games, you could actually just use a controller on the PC as well. And now we've moved on here to Team Fortress 2, which is a great PC game. High settings, as you can see there. At the end of the video, I'm going to put a list of all the games and all the settings that I've used, just so you can get a detailed look at them. Again, Team Fortress 2, really nice looking game. It's on the latest build of the Source engine, so you've got some nice effects. And as you can see, we're averaging around 60 frames per second now, which is perfectly playable. And as demonstrated here, even when there's, I think there's 32 player server that I'm on here, even when there's a lot of stuff going on, you're still getting decent frames per second. There's a lot of models on screen, and the Eco PC handles that perfectly fine. So we're moving on now to Crisis Warhead. As you can see, still the same resolution, and we've got all the settings on mainstream. Now, Crisis Warhead is the latest game from Crytek on the PC. Of course, we've got Crysis 2 coming out in March 2011, but this is the latest one at the moment. As you can see here, it's a really nice looking game, and it's considered to be, you know, one of the hardest, if not the hardest, games to run on the PC, simply because of how, you know, how nice it looks. But as you can see here, we've got it on mainstream settings, high resolution. We're still getting 30-40 frames per second, which is very nice. Completely playable game. It's on a £300 system, and you can see graphically it's very nice. The motion blur, the lighting effects, the explosions, they're all great. So, you know, even a game like Crysis Warhead you can run on this system. Moving on now to Left 4 Dead 2. Again, lots of high settings, anti-aliasing's on, anisotropic filtering set to 8 times, so your textures are nice and sharp even at a long distance. Left 4 Dead 2 is a brilliant PC game to get into if you're just starting off. It's available on Steam, so you can just download it onto your PC. It's 4-player co-op, so you can play it with your friends or just people that you might meet online. And it's a really nice game to get into PC gaming. Of course, you have the mouse and keyboard for the aiming, so that's dead easy, nice and intuitive. It's much easier to play first-person shooters on a PC than it is on an Xbox or a PlayStation with an analog controller. You get much more precision with a mouse and keyboard setup. And as you can see here in the top left-hand corner, we've got the temperature of the graphics card, which is 40°C, which is completely fine. And more importantly, the frame rate is, you know, up in the 50s, sometimes the 60s. And, you know, Left 4 Dead 2 is a very nice looking game. It's one of those games where there's a lot of stuff on screen at once, because obviously you have all these infected zombies running at you. You know, so your computer's going to have to work hard to render all this stuff. But you know, as you're going to see in the next section, even, you know, when there's a massive horde of zombies coming at you, you know, this PC is still completely fine with rendering at you know, 50-60 frames per second. So again, you can see here, you know, there's a lot of characters on the screen, a lot of stuff going on, bullets going everywhere, you know, blood and gore, and you can see the frames per second is still great. The PC is not lagging or anything. So basically, you're going to be able to play pretty much every, you know, recent release, high settings, 1680 by 1050 resolution with this PC. So yeah, hopefully, as you've seen in this video, you don't need to spend hundreds of pounds to, you know, get yourself into PC gaming. The system's £300. You can purchase an operating system separately if you like. A lot of people may already have their own operating system, so, you know, there's an option there on the website. You can choose to have it with or without the operating system. But if you do need one, you can add it to your basket and we'll install it for you. So yeah, that's a quick rundown of the GLHF ECO PC. I'm going to put some settings up now so you can see exactly what graphic settings I was using in each game. Hope you enjoyed the video, and be sure to check out the website.